Hey guys, I'm Jordy, and this is your guide to the Lord of Oozes, one of two faceless one lieutenants of Deathwing, Yor'Sahj. Now, once you take out Morchok, you're offered one of two bosses. To the right, Yor'Sahj, or to the left, Zanaz. Now, Yor'Sahj stands at the bottom of a big eldritch cavern, surrounded by oozes that give a hint at what you'll be facing for this boss. Each ooze imbues their abilities into the big guy, so you'll be looking to take one out per wave to limit his abilities, and then deal with the abilities that the rest give him, all depending on what combination you're offered. Okay, as far as raid composition goes, for Prog, we went with 7 healers, but this can absolutely be done with 5 or 6. We just felt the enrage wasn't that tight, so the extra healers helped cover any mistakes. Additionally, you'll want a 2 tank, but 1 tanking eventually is definitely possible with some gear. Alright, let's get into the meat of this. Yor'Sahj is a 1-phase fight with a 10-minute enrage timer. On 25-man, this timer is a bit of an issue early in the phase, but once you've got gear, it should be a complete pushover. Just watch it and adjust boss DPS if you need to. More on that in the walkthrough. Okay, about 25 seconds in, and every minute and 15 seconds thereafter, Yor'Sahj will summon 4 oozes, the colors chosen at random around the room. Each of these colored oozes have different abilities that they give the boss, and you're looking to limit his ability to combo bad configurations of oozes by killing a specific one before they reach the boss for him to hoover up. Because of math, there are actually only 6 different combinations of oozes that you need to think about when they spawn, so you can predetermine exactly which color of ooze you'll kill ahead of time so that you're not caught off guard. Weak auras will help with this. Foji already has a great one that we use, but we'll go through the different combinations and what you're looking to do for each in a second. Okay, other than the oozes, Yor'Sahj will cast Void Bolt on his current target, inflicting an initial 100,000 damage and then applying a stacking dot that ticks for about 50,000 shadow damage every 2 seconds. You'll want to tank swap on these, taunting after each tank gets about 2 or 3. This isn't too dangerous, just be mindful of it. Alright, now let's get into the oozes, what each one does before we get into dealing with the different combinations. First, the Acidic Ooze, or the Green Ooze. When this ooze reaches the boss, he'll gain the ability to spit green slime at the entire raid every 10 seconds or so. These slime bolts deal a good amount of damage and will splash to anyone within 4 yards. So if you leave this one up, you're looking to spread out in a small cluster so each person only takes 1 instance of damage instead of 2. This wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for a different slime that he'll eat that we'll discuss in a second. But yeah, generally, outside of one example, you'll prioritize this one to kill because stacking under the boss allows for strong group healing. Okay, speaking of stacking, the next ooze, the Red Ooze or Crimson, imbues the boss with Searing Blood, where he'll target 3 players with a chain of fire and deal more damage the further you're standing from the boss himself. If you're stacked under the boss like we are here, you'll see very little damage at all go out, but if you're spread out, it will likely kill somebody. This means allowing the boss to absorb both the green, the spread out ooze, and the red, the one you're looking to stack on, at the same time is a certain wipe. So if you see both red and green spawn, you must kill one of them, and in every case, the green. Alright, next up, the Blue Ooze. This is one that you want to see. When Yor'Sahj eats it, he'll spawn a Mana Void, a big purple ball with about 6.5 million HP that once it spawns will suck all of the mana from your casters in the room to 0. When this thing is killed, however, anyone within 25 yards will get all of that mana back. So it's kind of like a mana battery that you want to kill in order to give everyone the ability to keep healing or DPSing. Now there's a specific way to handle these that we'll talk about more in the walkthrough, but suffice to say, you'll want to let the first one that spawns during the fight absorb your mana, and then the entire raid uses mana cooldowns to regain what they can, and then DPS it down low so that once the next Mana Void spawns and eats up all your mana again, you can kill the old low HP one to replenish the raid's mana. Then you just repeat the cycle, keeping one alive, getting it low, and using it to juice the raid once the next one spawns. Okay, that's the blue one. Now let's talk about the purple one, or Shadowed. This one concerns the healers. When the boss has eaten it, the entire raid will be afflicted with a 20-second debuff called Deep Corruption. This makes it so that when you get healed, you'll take a stacking debuff called, well, Deep Corruption. But yeah, if you're healed 5 times during this debuff, it will explode, dealing 100,000 damage to everybody in the raid. As such, it's crucial for the healers to watch the stacks on the raid and make sure that no one is healed that much. You'd even rather someone die than they take 5 stacks, because if the damage does go off, it will likely wipe the raid. Now, 20 seconds into Deep Corruption, the stacks will reset as he applies another instance of the debuff, so you do get a reset about halfway through each instance of the purple slime, but you need to be super careful not to pop this. We assign one healer to each of the 5 groups and tell them, hey, this is your group and you're responsible to keeping that group alive and only that group. This ensures that a bunch of healers don't see someone on one stack, see them get low, and then everyone turn to heal them all at once, and then they get 5 stacks instantaneously. Now, real quick, a lot of heals here act weird. Some give no stacks, some give a lot. I've got an image pinned in my Dragon Soul channel in my Discord that covers what each heal does based off of a Wowhead post. I'll show it here briefly. But yeah, some standout ones to avoid are Divine Hymn, Holy Fire, and most AoE heals. A big tip here too, Paladins can beacon the tank and bomb heals into a Hunter pet or Warlock pet, and the tanks won't take stacks as they're healed, and pets are not affected by Deep Corruption. Okay, that's purple. Only a couple more. Next up, the Black Ooze, or Dark Globule. This one is nasty. When the boss eats it, he'll summon Forgotten Ones, those little elephant guys that we know and love, who will fixate on a random player as it spawns and cast Psychic Slice on them, dealing some damage. If you're stacked under the boss, this isn't too bad. Just heal through it, AoE them down as fast as you can, and if you're also afflicted with the purple debuff, be super careful not to overheal people. Okay, finally, the yellow one, or Glowing. This one juices up the boss's other abilities. His Void Bolt now does AoE damage, so make sure the tanks are just outside of the stack, and he'll attack 50% faster. Additionally, all the other slime abilities that he absorbs will double in strength or frequency. With green, he'll throw out the bolts twice as fast. Red, same thing, but you should be under the boss so you'll never see it. Blue, he'll summon 2 mana voids, which can be extra annoying, and black, he'll summon 2 waves of elephant guys instead of 1. This is often one that we will kill because it's super dangerous, dealing with the extra damage and double instances of stuff. But there is one instance where we don't that we'll talk about in a second. Okay, so that's the 6 different oozes. One thing, you can only kill one ooze because once one dies, the others become invincible, so don't try any split DPS shenanigans, it won't work. Now, I'm not going to go through each instance of the 6 combinations that you're likely to face, but I am going to show you which I recommend you kill based off of what you might be presented with. This is what we're going for. You'll notice that the only 2 different colored oozes that we are going to kill are either green or yellow. We ignore black, purple, red, and blue, as there isn't a case here where killing one of those 4 is safer than killing the green or yellow in these different combinations. Some of these waves are more dangerous than others, and we'll talk about those in a second, but use this as your cheat sheet. I promise we've tested this fight a lot, and this worked the best for us. Okay, let's get into the walkthrough and see how the fight looks. On pull, the raid should stand between the green and yellow ooze spawns, as those are the ones that you'll be turning to shortly. The tank can grab the boss and drag him into the center with the melee, but ranged can stand in the back here for now. Also, do not lust on pull here, at least for prog, because you'll want it for a particularly nasty combo that we'll talk about in a second. Alright, about 20 seconds in, you'll see your first wave of oozes. Let's say you're presented with a rather easy one: blue, green, black, and red. In this case, you'll want to kill the green one, so ranged and melee run out from the boss, blast the green one, and then return to the boss to keep DPSing. Once the other 3 oozes reach the boss and he absorbs them, we're looking at dealing with blue, black, and red. As for red, we stack under the boss. This negates the heavy raid damage the red might do to the further away from him we are, and because it's blue, he'll spawn a mana void. Once this first one spawns, the raid should use Mana Tide, Hymn of Hope, Plea, anything to get your mana back into a good spot, because you won't be getting your full mana bar until the next blue ooze spawns. So do what you have to do to keep pumping. The raid can grip in the mana void and start cleaving it, but it is critical not to kill it, so watch your DPS. And because it's black, you'll see your first wave of faceless ones. Because the raid is stacked, AoEing here is great and continuing to DPS the boss as these things die. Don't stress out too much about them. Passive cleave generally works with maybe a bit of targeted AoE here and there, but it's important to make sure that these things die before the next wave of oozes spawn, so keep an eye on their HP and call for more damage on them if you need to. Okay, you're dealing with this wave for about a minute, and then he'll summon another wave of oozes. Let's say you're presented with blue, purple, yellow, and black. In this case, we'll kill yellow, as we want to avoid juicing the boss with extra powered up abilities, and we're left with purple, black, and blue. Healers, it's important to be extra careful with your heals here. 5 heals on a specific person will blow the raid up, so watch carefully and don't overheal anybody. Okay, so purple is handled, we now have a new mana void. You'll want to watch the raid's mana bar. Once it empties again from the new mana void, a DK should grip in the old mana void, which ideally has been whittled down to about 20%, where the raid will now blow it up and return a full mana bar to everybody. While this is happening, feel free to cleave the new one, but just make sure not to kill it. One thing to note, these things actually explode and die at around 5% HP, not 0%, so don't get it too low until you're absolutely ready. And since we have black, like before, we'll be getting more elephant dudes. Just do what you did last time and cleave and AoE them down. Not too bad. Okay, so that's how about 4 of the 6 waves work. There are, however, 2 waves that require special tactics that we'll need to discuss. First, if you're presented with blue, green, yellow, and purple, we recommend you kill the yellow slime. What this does mean is that you'll leave the boss with the green ability, the splashing green bolts, so you'll need to spread the raid out instead of stacking. Healers will have to watch their heals here, as the whole raid will be taking AoE damage. It's a good idea to ask people to healthstone or use personal damage reduction cooldowns here. Additionally, if you're getting a second mana void, you'll want to kill the first one, but since the raid is spread out, you'll find that it's difficult to be within 25 yards of it as the old one dies. So here you'll see me watch the timer for the green bolts going out, booting in as the mana void dies between the waves of bolts, and then back out once it dies, once I have all my mana and get back into position. This is kind of spooky, but do what you can. This configuration does kind of suck, but it is very killable with a little positioning and planning, so just do your best to get through it. Alright, other than that one, we have one more difficult one. If you're presented with red, yellow, black, and green, we recommend you kill the green one. What this means is you're going to find the boss do a crazy amount of damage for the next minute, as he will be eating the yellow one, giving him 50% increased attack speed, and because he's also got a black ooze, you'll get 2 waves of elephant guys. This is the one that we choose to use our big raid cooldowns for. Lust, Barrier, Hymn, Trank, Rally, Aura Mastery, anything to get through this onslaught of damage while the raid blows up the many elephant guys. Tanks use cooldowns here as well, as the healers will have their hands full. You might find as this wave nears its end, you still have a lot of faceless ones left alive. It's critical that these are cleaned up before the next wave, so the raid needs to move as a group to the next ooze and AoE them as they walk. Remember, they fixate on people, so stay clumped and blow them up as you work on the next ooze, whatever color it may be. Alright, well that's the majority of the different combinations. Again, here's the little image of which slime to kill for each different configuration. This is also pinned in my Discord. Okay, so ideally you burn the boss down to between 15 and 10%. If you do find that he's low enough, you might opt to ignore the next wave of incoming oozes and just burn the boss down, as while he's channeling to summon them, he just stands there. We found if he was under 10%, it was a good indication to just keep blasting him, ignoring killing one of the 4 and ending the fight. If you pulled it off, congratulations and nicely done. All right, let's talk about some tank tips. This fight isn't too difficult for you. Most of the time, you're just standing in the center tank swapping on Void Bolt stacks. However, you do want to be mindful when the raid is afflicted with the purple slime and pop some defensives during this window, as the healers can't effectively get you topped up, as you can only take 5 heals every 20 seconds or so. Additionally, during the red, yellow, black wave, you'll be taking a huge amount of damage, so save your big cooldowns for this so the healers can focus on the raid. And for the healers, this fight's also not really too bad. Just don't be a dummy and blow the raid up by healing someone with too many stacks of Deep Corruption. I found myself holy firing and killing the raid a couple times on our progression. Don't be like me. Also, use those raid cooldowns during the black, yellow, red wave. This is the highest amount of damage the raid will take, so plan accordingly. And for the DPS, this is a big fight about priorities. First, make sure you're killing the slime that's been called before it gets to the boss. Then, focus the ads if necessary, then the mana void so that it's primed to juice the casters back with mana once it's been called for to be killed, and finally, the boss. And use defensives during the green, blue, purple wave. The healers will be struggling to heal you just enough to keep you alive, while also not putting too many into you that you explode because of the purple debuff, so help them out with a health stone or a damage mitigation cooldown. Alright, well that's Yor'Sahj. If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor and like and subscribe. It helps me a ton in growing the channel and pushes me to make more high quality guides. I super appreciate it. Thanks a bunch, and I'll see you guys in the next one, the Lobster Tennis Star Warlord Zanaz.